Good morning or afternoon, my fellow yogic travelers. I'm mighty glad to be alive today, and I hope that you are too as we continue to live, laugh, love, learn, linger, live the life we love. It's Thursday, so that it's story day, and I was very fortunate in my early years of study that I was exposed to the Sufi tradition, which is like the mystic wing of the Islamic approach, and learned a lot of stories using Mullah Nasruddin as the Sufi fool. So he's like a kind of trickster character, but in anthropomorphic form, not like the Native Americans, where many of the tricksters are symbolized by animals like the coyote or the rabbit or whoever they use as their model. And this one is Mullah Nasruddin, gets across the lessons. And I guess this has something to do with like thinking outside the box. Anyway, every day for 40 years, Mullah Nasruddin passes by the border of his country into the next country and has to come by the customs official. And he has this smirk on his face, so the custom official knows that he's smuggling something. And every day they go through, they check his armpits, every orifice, they check everywhere in the saddlebags, whatever, they can't find anything. 40 years later, finally the customs agent retires. He meets Mullah Nasruddin on the stage and says, listen, you have to tell me I'm no longer in the civil service. There's no way I can hold you accountable legally, criminally, whatever. Tell me, were you smuggling all these years? Mullah Nasruddin says, yes, I was. What was it? Was it gold? Jewels? No. Counterfeit currency? No. Diamond? No. What were you smuggling? Donkeys. So think outside the box. My topic for today is what I call inoculation against nihilism. And yoga is the greatest inoculation against nihilism. It's the real immunity against the naysayers and the haters, not only outside yourself, but even if you have something inside yourself that self-sabotages your path, you want to pay attention to this. The stress of the pandemic has kept our country in a state of psychophysiological emergency preparedness all the time. So it's way overdoing what we need to do to pay attention, to be on guard. Yet right now, there's been a little lifting in the CDC recommendations about not having to wear masks and so forth. So potential is bursting forward. People want to come out again. People want to travel again. But we all have to ask, what's going to happen next? What is my forward movement taking me towards? What's the hopeful outcome I want to envision? Because it's in life's movement towards our own ideal that we find meaning. So now is the time to renew your commitment to the Dharma, to the path of optimum unfolding, which is always aiming upwards. If you're not aiming upwards, this is not going to make much sense to you. But once you are, you're going to look for other ways to help you articulate this, define it, and practically apply it. So it's as if we're going on an unknown adventure, facing something that we've never had to face before, bringing forth resources from inside ourselves we've never had to do before. And this is where the importance of what I call the logos, the part of your rational mind that can speak forth into being things, like when it says in the Bible, let there be light, and there is. So this is something that we can do, and our own words can replenish us and not deplete us. So this is why I always say in your conversation, do not talk in a way where you're describing yourself as weaker than you really are. And when I'm in my teacher function, I don't let people say that in my presence. You want to badmouth yourself, you want to cast shade on yourself behind my back, but not in front of me. I'm going to make you pay attention more to how you're defining what your life is and come up with a better way than a narrow reality tunnel that limits you. The next thing is to understand making choices that help create good karma, the positive outcome of the sequences that you've laid down. So the consequences, which you're not free of, don't violate the principles of just order, because when you do, things don't go well for you. So that means there are things you have to develop, skills you have to develop, skills you have to master, because if you do this poorly, things don't turn out well. But if you do it properly, you're afforded a certain kind of reward, something that's appropriate, that you deserve because you set it up that way. Next is the understanding of social integration. When we meet people to build trust between strangers, you have to assume that something good could be generated between us. You have to act on the preposition that this person has something really interesting to reveal, even if it's just on the basis of, I haven't had that experience, because everybody else's life is something that you haven't gone through. Could be potential learning curves there that are astronomical. And you never know who will be your hidden guru or one of the 36 Lamed Vavs, the hidden tzaddikim or holy people in the world. You never know who you're working to. So don't cling to talking about what's lacking in your life, your insufficiency. That becomes a sign of your arrogance, not your humility. And be open to learning things from other people, because there's so much more in life than just what our own personal experience is. And then that leads us to the idea of what sacrifice is all about, satchafacheri, to make something sacred. We learn to give up things in the here and now for what we think will be a better future. Like if you go to college, 4 years of your life or graduate school, in order that, right, the hopeful outcome is I will have a better future as a result of this. So that means I have to stop partying and buckle down in a certain way. I'm willing to give that up because what I will get in exchange for that is a better future. So that's the question you're always asking. What can I sacrifice that will make my future better? Sacrificing a part of you for the good of the greater whole. And if you would not perish sooner than you want to or should, then you have to ask yourself, what's necessary to shed? And that leads us to learning to let go.